Hi, Fox Interpretation. Can you guys hear? Okay, wonderful. I see. Looks
Yes,
like
everyone's
everybody
online.
is assigned to their channels, so we will be getting going shortly, but I will do a double check when we do activate the channels to make sure we're good. And Martha, I have my phone, so if there's any issues, feel free to text.
Great.
It'll be in front of me.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. Do you want to maybe turn it on now and you could just leave us in those channels and we could check if anyone can be heard in the main session? Or
Sure,
do you wait?
I
Okay.
have no problems. Let me activate them now, just so we don't have any issues. 1 second. All right, so they've been activated. If you guys want to say something so I don't hear, make sure I can't hear you. All right, it looks like everybody has been assigned. Wonderful. So we'll get going in 2 seconds. Thanks, Martha.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the Malden School Committee meeting to order. Today is Monday, February 5th, 2024. The time is 6:00 p.m. Our next meeting will take place on Monday, March 4th at 6 p.m. here in the chamber. As always, we will first pledge allegiance to our flag. We'll then have a moment of silence for all those who have fought for our country. We will then have the roll call to ensure that we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to come together this evening. And then we will get into this evening's agenda, which consists of approval of minutes, the regular session from January 8th, 2024, the special session minutes from January 18th, 2024, followed by public comment. Then we will hear from our superintendent, which will include a discussion about the 2024-2025 Malden Public Schools calendar. From there, we'll jump into subcommittee reports. We'll hear from our vice chair and chair of the budget subcommittee, Ms. Spatafora, as well as regarding the superintendent search committee. From there, depending on how that goes, we will go into motions and resolutions, where there is one item, Superintendent Search Services, Ms. Spatafora. And then we will go to personal privilege. From there, we will entertain a motion to go into executive session for the following reasons. One is approval of the executive session minutes of November 13, 2023. Approval of executive session minutes of December 4th, 2023. Number 3, approval of executive session minutes of January 18th, 2024. Number 4, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Subsection 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 22F, G, review of executive session minutes from November 13th, 2023, December 4th, 2023, and January 18th, 2024. Item number 5, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. Assistant Superintendent of Multilingual Education in Title III, because an open meeting will have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position. Item number 6, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, this time the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, because an open meeting will have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position. Item number 7, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 1, to discuss 22 open meeting law complaints as follows. Number 1, January 16, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 2, January 16, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 3, January 16, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 4, January 16, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 5, January 16, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 6, January 17, 2024, filed by Amy Friedman against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 7, January 18, 2024, filed by John Sayer against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 8, January 19, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 9, January 19, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 10, January 22, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 11, January 22, 2024, filed by Brian DeLacy / Malden News Network against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 12, January 23, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 14, January 23, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 15, January 23, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 17, January 23, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 18, January 26, 2024, filed by Brian DeLacy / Malden News Network against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 19, January 26, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 20, January 26, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 21, January 26, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 22, January 26, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 23, January 30th, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. Number 24, January 31st, 2024, filed by Bruce Friedman / Open Commonwealth against the members of the Malden Public Schools School Committee. So the good thing is I bought plenty of Girl Scout cookies, so this will help us get through these items in executive session, if the committee so chooses to vote to go into executive session. If we survive that, we will then come back out and act or not act on some of these items and then move adjournment. So are there any questions from the members on where we are and where we're going? All right, if not, let's first pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask everyone to please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. All right, we'll now have our clerk call the roll to ensure that we have a quorum.
Mayor Christensen,
Here.
Mr. Drummy. Here. Mr. McCarthy. Here. Ms. Spatafora. Here. Ms. Macklin. Here. Ms. Orty. Here. Mr. Gray. Here. Mr. Bernard. Here. Ms. Rose Ziber. Here. Superintendent Noriega Murphy. Here. Student Representative Abel.
All right, we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to come together. We'll now have the introduction of this evening's translation services for our meeting. And to do that will be our Vice Chair, Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight we have translation services offered by Fox Translation. For those that are watching on Zoom, you can click on the small globe at the bottom of the screen and choose your interpretation, the language that you would like the meeting interpreted in. And these channels have already been activated, so you can go right ahead and click those. It's already activated.
All right, everyone. So now to the agenda. First up, the approval of minutes. Regular session minutes of January 8th, 2024. Motion by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Ms. Horty. Any questions on those? Motion's been made, seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Now the special session minutes from January 18th, 2024. Motion by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Everybody's had a chance to review those. Please. Let me turn you on, Ms. Macklin. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did have an opportunity to review, and I think that we need to maybe take a look in executive session. They're just not accurate.
Okay, so, yeah, I don't know if we would do it in executive session. It's not an item.
Okay, so do you,
Is there a particular item, Ms. Macklin?
yes, so this is the special session?
Yes.
The regular minutes or the?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. It's the executive
Yeah.
session minutes that need amending.
Sure.
I apologize.
No worries. Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. All right, everyone. Now we're down to public comment. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the school committee. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record. We'll toggle back and forth between in-person and online, and 3 minutes per speaker for a total of 30 minutes for public comment. So with that being said, public comment is now open.
Hi, my name is Eden Garhart-Smith. I live at 16 Quarry Road. I'm speaking in regards to the vote not to renew the superintendent's contract and just the verbiage that came out at the last meeting. The idea that, at least what I recall, was stated that the mayor and the vice chair and the superintendent had a conversation. And maybe that's what you had to say, but I was not pleased. Like, if there was a vote in executive session, I feel like that should have been like a math problem, make it transparent. So maybe you did or didn't have a side conversation, but there should have been an and there was a vote in executive session. Maybe you couldn't come out with that because it's executive session, but I've also never seen it when you've gone in an executive session and you've never come out for a vote. Like, usually you come back out to the public and give your vote in public, even though you've whatever's transpired in executive session happen. And while my name was not listed in the open comment violations, I did debate adding my name and submitting that. And I just want to say to the superintendent, thank you for all you've done. I really appreciate your superintendent notes, like the breakdown of the numbers and so forth of the classrooms and your engagement in the community. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Jackie Ecker, and I live at 58 Leonark Road in Malden. I'm a parent of a 10th grader at Malden High School and the current president of Malden CPAC. I stand here with the officers and members of the advisory board of Malden CPAC to share our feedback on the school committee decision to not renew Dr. Noriega Murphy's contract. We are disappointed that this decision was made without requesting any input from Malden CPAC. Malden CPAC represents the families of all children on IEPs and 504 plans in Malden Public Schools, which comprises nearly 50% of district families. For Malden School Committee to make this drastic of a decision without consulting with a stakeholder representing the largest percentage of district families is disappointing. Historically, the special ed population in Malden has been neglected and underserved, and the actions of school committee here is just another example of this. Meanwhile, unlike other district leaders, Dr. Noriega Murphy actively reaches out to us in order to foster a relationship with the stakeholders representing Malden special ed students. We meet with Dr. Noriega Murphy and with Assistant Superintendent of Special Education, Pam McDonald, on a bi-monthly basis, and we have truly appreciated the attention they both have provided to us. Actions taken by Dr. Noriega Murphy have limited Malden's exposure to litigation, and this is something to note that might not have been taken into account in the decision. Malden CPAC is concerned that changing superintendents yet again could have a negative impact on our most vulnerable students, which does include the special needs community. We understand the decision has already been made and that we can only move forward now. However, we do request that Malden CPAC be included in both the decision-making process to hire a new superintendent and in the process to onboard that successful candidate to ensure we limit disruption to our community. In the meantime, we would like to thank Dr. Noriega Murphy for your attention to Malden families. We truly hope for great success for you in the future and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee? Welcome.
My name is Fern Rometti Brown. I live at 21 Ivy Road in Malden. I stand before you to speak about the non-transparent and unjust non-renewal of contract of our superintendent, Dr. Ligia Noriega Murphy. The school committee received a longer statement from me. In her 2+ years working for the district, Dr. Noriega Murphy has worked for inclusion, accountability, and greater access across the board. Her list of accomplishments is long. She has demonstrated and repeatedly been informed that her performance is outstanding. Since Dr. Noriega Murphy's first interview, she has said that she wants to stay in Malden until her retirement. Since she arrived, she has been a target by the MEA president, Deb Gesualdo. I affirm that Deb Gesualdo incited hatred with her characterization of Dr. Noriega Murphy, the first woman Latina superintendent in Malden, calling her racist and disingenuous. Under Deb Gesualdo's watch, there were racial, hateful actions and menacing behavior toward BIPOC educators, and Deb did not stand up for them. 7 Black educators left Beebe, and 3 left Salemwood. Ms. Gesualdo backed the administration instead of her own teachers. She treats minority teachers differently than white teachers. Black educators said, "I have been working in a hostile environment under a shadow of discomfort, and Black teachers need not apply to Malden." Ms. Gesualdo was silent, as were Superintendent John O'Terry, Mayor Gary Christensen, and the school committee. O'Terry hired unlicensed educators and left the mess for Dr. Noriega Murphy to clean up. Dr. Noriega Murphy had to bear the fallout and then was hostilely accused by Deb Gesualdo of forcing out educators of color. I allege that Deb Gesualdo's actions are a continuum of hatred, racism against Malden BIPOC educators and against Dr. Noriega Murphy, and Ms. Gesualdo's recently authored an anti-Semitic MTA statement that word for word follows the Hamas charter, concealed from union members, including a new curriculum saying that it is not anti-Semitic. Deb Gesualdo incites violence against minority groups. I'm asking for you to have Dr. Noriega Murphy's back because it is an act of justice. I've also sent you a more detailed statement by email. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to address the school committee could do so now.
Hello, my name is Aiden Luciano. I'm a senior at Malden High and the student advisor to the superintendent. Among other important things, I currently do not reside in Malden. Today I'm here to support Ms. Dr. Noriega Murphy and the fantastic work she's done with our education within Malden, especially correcting the long-standing issue as Malden High did not meet the state requirement for time on learning. If that is not a statement of Noriega's good work and good faith, let her years in the Boston public school system be the front runner. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, we're now going to go online, and then, can you, one second, okay? I'm going to have someone come in online, and then we'll go right to you. Oh, they put their hand down, so you're on.
Thank you, and sorry about that. I didn't
No
mean to rush.
worries, no worries.
So first, I want to thank Dr. Noriega Murphy for seeing me when I came in. I know that she knows that my name is Michael, and it's actually not the first time that she acknowledged me in a public place. I remember crossing the parking lot near this old Citizens Bank one day, and she had said hi to me. But yet the mayor has, I've seen him a lot around the city, but he's actually never said hi to me. Other than one time around the Halloween, he did give me candy. But anyway, my name is Michael Jemba. My pronouns are they, them, and I live at 19 Washington Street. And happy Black History Month, everybody. I started on February 1st, and it's now February 5th. I'm a community member here in Malden. After I resigned from Malden Public Schools, I was not given an exit interview, and that's actually in our contract. And I did not decline to have one either. So I didn't have an exit interview, so I didn't have an opportunity to relay important information, which I will just do now openly. This is a fine alternative to me. So at the last school committee meeting, there were a number of parents speaking on how they felt their children, some of whom do not attend MPS, felt unsafe. And I'm not going to speak to the content of what they said, because this is a school committee meeting. But I do agree that our schools are unsafe, and people feel unsafe in our schools. Educators feel unsafe, other teaching staff feel unsafe, learners feel unsafe. And in my resignation letter, I stated that I have realized I can't keep up with the demand as my mental overload is manifesting physical symptoms, such as chest pains, nausea, stomach aches, headaches, and so on. Dr. Noriega Murphy did reply to this and said that she wishes me the best taking care of myself and my health. On 18th of June, 2020, that's 4 years ago, not quite 4 from today, but some of you may know what that date is. And Mayor Gary Christensen and the Malden Board of Health Director Christopher Webb declared that racism is a public health crisis in the city of Malden. Racism is a public health crisis in the city of Malden. I worked for Malden Public Schools for about 1.5 years. In my classroom, many people have been fired, let go, or otherwise just did not return. And here's a list of the ESPs, educational support professionals, who were fired or just didn't return to the Salemwood School. There was a Latino man, a Latino woman, a Palestinian woman, and a Black man. 2 people stayed until the last school year, and they were not fired. One was a multiracial woman and one was a white woman. The Black man who was fired after I resigned, which I learned during the winter break, applied for another job, and I provided reference, and I realized I don't know why he or any of the others were let go. I don't know any of the critical feedback for them. I can only give good feedback for them. All I know is that I was a white teacher in a classroom where non-white staff turned over at a higher rate than me, and I eventually had to leave for my own health because these are human beings. I had real connections with them, and they're just disposed of.
Time.
So I recommend that this committee
Anybody else
investigate
wishing
Malden
to Public
Public
address the
Schools.
school committee
I
can
have
do
more
so
to
now.
say, Mr. Mayor.
You're at the 3 minutes.
I recommend that this committee investigate Malden Public Schools' hiring and firing.
Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record. So anybody else wishing to address the school committee, we only ask that you state your name and address for the record. Good evening.
And I'm an educator at the Ferryway School. I'm not a good speaker in front of adults, but I do an awesome job with our little people. So I'll do my best. I've been working in Malden as an EL educator for the past 14 years. I would say since the arrival of Dr. Noriega, the last 2 years have been, I will say, I've felt safe to come to work. I'm doing the best I can as an educator in these last 2 years because of the changes and implementation of new procedures that Dr. Noriega has implemented. I'm very saddened to know that she's leaving because in the years that I've been here, she's the second BIPOC administrator, superintendent that is parting with not a just reason why. I want to thank you, Dr. Noriega, for being here and making the changes that you have made. The parents will miss you. I will miss you. The system will miss you because the changes that you have made are necessary changes for the existence of the diversity of Malden public schools and community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record. Anybody online? Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Karen Colon Hayes. I'm a city councilor at large here in Malden. My address is 105 Wyoming Avenue. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I just have to say thank you in public where people are listening. Dr. Noriega Murphy, you have been so great for this community. You've listened. You've partnered with us and the community on so many different things that promote different, views and all of our community engagement, all of our festivals and stuff. And I did feel it heard. I feel it from a lot of people here, the people who have been reaching out to me. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being the first Latina superintendent that Malden has ever had. And I hope somebody else scoops you up fast. And I'm really sad that you're leaving.
Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Okay, nobody online? Going once? All right, we're going to close public comment. And the school committee will be in a brief recess because we have to check on the projector. You need me to call Anthony? School committee's back. We'll now go to our superintendent for her report. Just 1 second. There we go.
Good evening. I want to thank God, my family, and all of you, amazing caregivers, amazing students, and amazing staff for all your support. Leading this district has been incredibly rewarding. I'm not a crier, so I don't know what's going on. I am very proud of all the work that we have been doing together. Once again, I'm not a crier, so I don't know. All right. I'm one of 8, so I shouldn't be crying, right? Shouldn't be. I am very proud of the work that we have been doing in our schools, from the academic rigor, developing social emotional supports, focus on our linguistic and cultural students, as well as creating structures, processes, and systems to support students, caregivers, and staff. Always keeping students at the center of the work. That is my commitment. That's why I became an educator. And Mr. Simba, I'm sorry, M. Simba, you asked about my why, and I presented the first time I met all the educators. It's because I love students, and I love education, and I'm passionate about that. And when it's time to move on, I will move on. And I enjoy getting to know many families and caregivers that we serve, and we are here to serve you. That is the job. It's never to be against each other. These schools are here to support you, to work as a team. I enjoy working alongside so many talented educators and amazing school leaders. I'm committed to the work, and I will continue giving my 110% until June 30th. That is my promise to the students and the families, as you all deserve the best education possible in this world. I just want to be clear that since I was hired in July 2021, I have never received a single warning or indication that I was not doing a good job. I never received any negative feedback about my performance as a superintendent, any concerns about my professionalism or my character. I live with respect and integrity. Unlike any other educator in Massachusetts, the superintendent is subject to the evaluation of the work that I'm doing here. I am subject, like any educator, to be held to the standards of DESE and their guidelines. Sadly, we follow it only once. I am here to continue the work, and I'm going to start with my support, but I want to say thank you for all your support to all of you. So on my report, as you can see, thank you. We are going to have we had a lot of celebrations. This month is critical, but it's not only 1 month. It's 365 days, 366 days to celebrate Black history and all of the diversities that we have in here. We talk about diversity, we have to embrace diversity. I want to thank all our guidance counselors, adjustment counselors, and people that provide support to our students in the school. Today, Mayor Richardson gave an honorary recognition to all our school counselors, so thank you for doing that for all our educators. So thank you. Once again, this is not the work of 1 day, 1 week, but it's the work of the year. We have already started the work of getting ready for the school year next year. I will make sure that I leave everything in place. That's one thing that I do. I try to leave these things better than I found them. That's my goal in life, to leave things better than how I found them. So one of the things that you will see, the new draft for the school year 24-25 calendar, is that we had to change Tuesdays PD to Wednesdays because ELC students who have only 2 days that attend only Tuesdays and Thursdays, if we have the PD on Tuesdays, they will be missing 1 day in the week. So we decided to make sure that it's equity in there, so we are moving the PD to Wednesdays. Also on September 3rd, there are going to be elections, and we are going to use that day as professional development. So those are the only changes that are going to happen for next school year. And I know you had to vote for the calendar for next school year. That was already invented by the PD team that exists as part of the CBA to make sure that they plan the professional development, and also by the president of the union who already saw the calendar. Next. We are getting ready also for the 8th graders, incoming 9th graders. There are going to be 2 different stations for families that are going to move the 8th graders to the high school. Please send them to the high school, wonderful place to be at. And we are going to have them on Thursday, March 14 is going to be virtually, so it will be a Zoom, and then one in person, so you can attend both if you want to, more than welcome. The other one is going to be on Thursday, April 11. We want to make sure that we are going to walk you through the process, and Erin Craven, thank you for your work, and also the team. Amy did a great job. We also are going to have workshops for students who had to fill out the FAFSA application, and that is going to be Friday, the 19th at 3:30 to 4:30. And please, parents, if you have questions or need any support, contact the guidance counselors, the principal, or central office. We are also going to start getting ready for a hiring fair that is going to be on March 9. It's going to be a BB. We're going to be promoting everything with our partners, 3 different partners. So if you can please promote our positions, that will be really amazing. We want to make sure we're going to start September with everybody in place.
So can you pause one second?
Oh.
No. Just hold on a second. I'm not sharing the Zoom.
I had to put my glasses on.
Sorry about that, guys. This isn't my day job.
Don't tell me we have to start over. Did we miss?
We didn't present the first few pages to Zoom.
Got it.
So if you want to.
You want to say? Oh,
Please.
sure, no problem, absolutely.
Just quickly go
Yep.
through the first slide.
Okay.
Are you on the first one?
Were you? Okay. Perfect, right
Yeah.
there, okay? No problem at all.
So everyone, the people online didn't see the slides changing. So for those watching, we just want to give them an opportunity to see what we're discussing here tonight. So we'll quickly recap
Perfect.
those first several slides.
Awesome. So, next slide, thank you. Our Black History Month, as you know, is 365 days, 366 days. And we are going to have celebrations in all our schools. Then we had another slide where we actually recognize our school week counselors. I saw it.
Let's just go there.
Okay. Let me go to the calendar. And probably you heard me say that we actually changed the professional development for teachers early release to Wednesday. So our wonderful students at ELC will be able to that go 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursday, will be able to actually go 2 days a week, and the rest of the other students will also be able to go 2 days a week. All right, we have our incoming 9th graders, so 8th graders, all the parents, please pay attention to this flyer. It's going to be everywhere. It has been shared with teachers in case you want to learn more about how to get ready to fill out these selection courses. Then we have the FAFSA, so parents who need support filling the applications for financial support, please contact your guidance counselors. We are saying join the team. We are going to have a hiring fair. Please come and invite people. Next.
We're caught up now.
Right, great. So we met in different occasions. I met with the student school representative, Meki, yay, with the superintendent student representative, yay. And also we're members of the Key Club and other students, and they develop a survey that is going to be given to students with multiple questions. So I didn't put the questions in here because it's supposed to be a student. And Mickey, thank you for that, and also Aiden, thank you for your support. So it's going to be given for February 12th to the 16th. They're going to capture the information, and they're going to be presenting the findings to us. I can't wait to see those findings. I don't have access to the information because that's what they're going to be providing. We had different and amazing celebrations in the schools, and I love to use the word amazing because I think it's wonderful. We had students supporting Malden Reads. We had our students for the Poetry Out Loud. We had first place, second place, and third place. You can see the names of the students in there. I don't want to say it in public. We had a lot of events in different schools. We are spending a lot of time visiting classrooms. Now I have more time, so I can join the team. And we see implementation of the curriculum. So thank you so much, teachers, school leaders, and directors, and of course, my assistant superintendents. With Malden Reads, we had wonderful presentations, but there were two that are our own, and that is Kelly Cullum. Thank you so much for all the work that you do at the high school for all our students with the transition program. You don't get enough recognition, but I have to say thank you so much for all your passion of getting our students exposed to life skills and moving on after high school. We also have our author, James Norris, who graduated from the high school, who for the second year has visited all our schools and read to students. We do have the honor roll, and also we have 4 students from the high school who got the policy scholarship, so congratulations to our students. Our honor roll, if you can see, the numbers are increasing. Next time, when we have more time, I will do the comparison between our 3 years and see how students are getting more into honor rolls and high honors. Enrollment for the district and the Welcome Center. Our enrollment is increasing. It is actually before COVID, so it's 6,524 students that we have enrolled in our schools. On the next slide, you can actually see how many are per school, per grade level, and the totals in there. The Welcome Center, you can see that we have students in the queue, that means applications that need to be processed. Between grades 1 to 12, we had 30 students that need to, the applications need to be processed, kindergarten 3. We have no seats available at Beebe, Fairway, and Linden. We don't have a waiting list, which is good at this moment, but as soon as a waiting list comes, we assign them according to how they apply, in the order they request to be moved. We have multilingual learners. The numbers are growing with our multilingual learners, and we also have flipped students, so now it's 43% our population in Malden Public Schools. Thanks to Ms. Ellen Callahan Rojas, the Assistant Superintendent for the Multilingual Department, we are, for the first time, have parent caregivers English classes that are being populated by 60 parents who are going to be enrolled, even though we had 198 applicants, but because it's due to Title III, parents have to have certain criteria to fill out for this, but we are working with the city to make sure that all the parents that didn't have the opportunity to enroll in the classes, they will be able to receive English classes. I know Ms. Jane McCabe worked very hard to do this, so she was the pioneer, we're just following her work. You can see when the classes are going to start, and there's a newsletter for parents, and we have 1.9 viewers. We are also starting the English Learners Parent Advisory Council. You can see the Zoom link. We are promoting this with all our parents. We are going to have translators. It's going to start February 28th at 8:30 a.m., but once again, we are going to be promoting things. We do have our special ed department that we're going to talk about the ACE curriculum. One of the things that we had worked to get to this point is that we measured the growth of all our students, but sometimes it was challenging to measure the growth of our students in sub-separate settings where they deserve to be able to know how students are doing. So parents deserve to know where the children are at when they're in sub-separate settings. So Pam McDonald and also Stephanie Scalise.
So I'm just really here to introduce Stephanie. She has taken this project on. We have just started to implement it, and we are implementing it pre-K to 12. We're in our first few months, but we're really excited about the growth we're seeing and the promise that this has for our students. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks, everybody. So the ACE curriculum is something that we adopted in Malden Public Schools to kind of help with some of the things that are going on in our sub-separate classrooms as well as in our inclusion and general education classrooms. What the curriculum basically has is actual curriculum built in that focuses on the mass curriculum frameworks, as well as adopting different modified lessons for students within our sub-separate classrooms from pre-K to 12. We can go to the next one. With the curriculum, it provides a lot of assessments that are in there. The biggest one is the core skills assessment, which basically gives us an idea of how the students are learning and what types of foundational skills they need at this time in order to help them. So we start off with a skills assessment to determine where their entry points are so that we can build from those areas. The skills assessment base off of that, which then help us with the scope and sequence of what we're doing within the classrooms and within the curriculum to help assess the students, to keep them on track with their performance and find out if there's any other areas of concern we might have, whether it's foundational skills with the kids, whether it's focusing on task in the classroom, many different things that we can do. The preference assessment is actually a really great tool which helps us with our students, especially in our autism spectrum sub-separate classrooms, to give them the ability to help us know what they prefer to help them learn. It's a great tool that the teachers are using right now to get a better understanding of what types of things the kids need in order to help them gain that access to the curriculum. Some of the things that it does focus on is challenging behaviors. It works really well with helping us collect the data that we need to analyze what is happening in the classrooms with the students, what's happening during transitions, what's happening during exploratory classes, what's happening at lunches, all aspects of the day. The data entry aspect of it is probably the biggest thing that we use, where we're taking goals and objectives from the special education IEPs and then utilizing those goals and objectives to collect the data to see how we're building upon either decreasing things that we don't want to see or increasing things that we do want to see. And then from there, we get very comprehensive graphs and charts that show us exactly where the students are. In the schools, we have quite a bit of kids that are currently on it. As you can see in the ELC, there's close to 48 kids right now that we have enrolled within the ACE curriculum. They're utilizing the curriculum right now, looking at analyzing the behaviors in the classroom, good and bad behaviors. Especially good behaviors where they're focusing, they're following directions, they're able to transition, they're being able to put their jacket on by themselves. Small little tasks that most people don't think about every day, but we reward the kids for. At the BB, we have 28 kids. Ferryway, we have 45 kids. Forestdale, there's 46, the high school has 12, and the Salem Wood currently has 36. All of the schools do have sub-separate classrooms within them that we utilize this for, but we're also using it for students that are within some of our inclusion classrooms that need those skills to build on. And then this is just a snapshot of one of the graphs that we get back for any types of things that we add in. So we're adding in data all the time. This just is a frequency chart of behavior within the classroom, whether it's challenging behavior or positive behavior, but this does show a significant decrease in what the behaviors were to what the behaviors are now, which has significantly declined, which is exactly what we want to see.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Thank you.
We are going to very soon open the parent portal so families can follow this too and have access to it. Our highlights, and I'm going to invite Pam Siski to please present the highlights.
Good evening. Tonight I wanted to bring you some data that we alluded to last week but wasn't available yet, and that's our growth data. And our growth data is looking at data from the fall to the winter. We're going to be sharing results for K to 8. The high school level is just finishing up their mid-year assessments this week with some makeups, so that's why you're not seeing anything for the high school tonight. What we are looking at is going to be nationally normed assessments so that they have some benchmarks. We're looking at 3 different assessments. The DIBELS assessment, which is based on early literacy skills such as sounds, blending, and fluency. iReady, which is a reading assessment that is going to be looking at students' reading comprehension skills in nonfiction as well as fictional literature and vocabulary. And we're going to be also looking at our IXL data, which is focusing on our math performance. Next slide, please. It's important to understand what we're talking about here when we're talking about growth. DIBELS defines the growth in a couple of different ways. One of them is an annual growth expected. Thinking about a student that starts a school year on grade level, we would expect them to grow annually. If, however, a student is below grade level, say they're 1 year below or 2 years below grade level, then what we would want is not just annual growth, but we would want annual growth plus a little bit of catch-up growth. Doesn't mean that you take a child that's 3 years behind and expect them to catch up in 1 year, but it's the idea that we would chip away at that so that they will eventually get caught up. So when you're going to be looking at the charts, that's what we're going to be looking at. So we've got the annual growth and the catch-up growth. Also remember, when we're talking about any of these measures, regardless of which one it is, there's a fall level. The winter level will be higher. So if you are on grade level in the fall, to be on grade level in the winter, you actually have to have moved. And then the bar for the spring is again going to be higher. What you're seeing on this particular chart is looking at our students in kindergarten through 3rd grade, because our early literacy skills of sounds and blending and fluency are most important at those grade levels. We have the students divided into those that started the school year in September, above benchmark, at benchmark, below benchmark, just about maybe 1 year below, and then well below benchmark, meaning they were more than 1 year below. And you can see where those students were. And what we're talking about is what kind of growth we would want to see. Because sometimes when we aggregate the data, it can actually mask some of the results that we really want to see. We've got the green bars, and these represent what DIBELS says if you have a solid program where you would expect these numbers in Malden to be by the end of the school year. So by the end of the school year, we would expect that 95% of our kids that started the school year in September above benchmark still being above benchmark. We would expect that by the end of the school year, our at benchmark kids, that 95% of them would be at benchmark. It doesn't mean we don't care about those remaining 5%, but sometimes you'll have a student that's 1 point over, and then the next time they're 1 point under, and so we may not be overly concerned about that 2-point spread. Below benchmark, DIBELS would say you would want 80% of those students to be caught up by the end of the school year. So they were 1 level below, and so if you have 80% of them caught up, then it's saying you have a very robust program for those type of students. That's a high bar. The well below benchmark says that we would want 80% of those students to no longer be well below. Doesn't mean they're going to be caught up, but they're going to move into that category of being below, because if we can continue to do that year in and year out, then we're going to be able to get those students caught up. Those benchmarks of 95, 80, and 80, and especially for the 80 and 80, that is a high bar. Next slide. So now we're going to look at the same kind of data, but I'm slicing it a little bit differently. So on the left side, you're seeing it's sliced by grade level, kindergarten through 3rd grade. As you can see in 3rd grade, we're almost there. And we're only halfway through the school year. So if we actually had values of at least 50% for each of those blue bars, then we would be on a very good path. So you can see that most of the grade levels are already well on their way to be able to meet those end of the year targets. That's for students that were starting the year at benchmark. On the right-hand side, this is students that were starting the year, starting in September, they were above benchmark. Again, we want that to be the 95%, and as you can see, those blue bars, the likelihood of them being at 95% by the end of the year is probably pretty strong because we're already in all the grade levels above that 50% mark. Next slide. Now we're going to look at the students that were below benchmark. They're a little bit below grade level when they started in September, and so we want that to be at that 80%. And as you can see, we're not quite at that 50% mark, which again indicates that this is a high bar, but we've got a couple of grade levels that are beginning to approach that area. And as you can see on the other slide of the well below benchmark, those are students that are functioning 2 or 3 or more grade levels below their current grade. And to get to that 80%, that's challenging. But having that goal, and we can measure year in and year out, how are we doing about getting to that goal? But even if there's, right now, 17% in kindergarten, that means we're getting 17% of those kids that started well below, they're actually not going to end the year well below, they're going to end the year below, or I have seen in some cases, students that are actually caught up. If you've got a rock star program or a rock star teacher, I have seen that happen. It takes quite a bit, but it's possible. Next slide. So now we're going to shift to looking at iReady. As I mentioned earlier, iReady is more focused on vocabulary and comprehension, which is actually the goal of reading, is to be able to take text, be able to look at it, decode it, but to understand what it's saying. But in the earlier grades, it's important to build those skills in decoding and phonics so you can get to the level of being able to comprehend and also expanding on their vocabulary. So just to understand how iReady does their growth scores. So I have an example here. So let's say you have a 3rd grader whose fall placement is in 2nd grade. Okay? So it means they're starting the year below. They're expected to grow 26 points by the end of the year. That's what iReady says. How do they know 26 points? Because they have data all across the United States that says 3rd graders that start the year in 2nd grade, on average, 26 points is typically what they grow. Just like if you go to the pediatrician, they know what does a 15-year-old boy typically grow in height. They've got these charts that they can look those up. And so that's what iReady is able to do. So if a student by mid-year improves 15 points from fall to winter, that's 15 out of the 26, they're 58%. They're over halfway there. The odds of them getting to that 26 is actually pretty high. If you're already at 15 points, at the midpoint, you do another 15, you're going to be at 30, which means now you're not only making annual growth, but you're starting to chip away at that catch-up growth. When we look at some of these growth percentages, what they are doing is they are looking at whether we're looking at a school, a class, a grade level. It's talking about the median value, which if you think back to your math days in middle school and high school, the median represents that middle point. You line them all up, and that's what the middle one is. That's what shows up on our iReady reports. So now we can actually look at our iReady data. Next slide. So you can see on the left side, what I have is I have it broken out by grade level. In this case, the green bar at 50%, that's actually where we would want to be at this point in time. We want to be at 100% by the end of the school year. We can see there's a lot of blue bars that are above 50%. So the odds of them being at 100%, again, being the median by the end of the school year, is very high. We've got a couple of grade levels that we might need to boost a little bit, and then it's going to be really important for our literacy folks to figure out why do we have such strong results in some areas. because knowing why we have success is just as important to know why we struggle in certain areas, because that's how you can move forward. On the other graph, again, same data, I just have it now sliced a little bit differently. Whether we're talking about kids that started the school year, on grade level, above grade level, 1 grade level below, 2 levels below, 3 or below. Again, we want to be at 100% by the end of the year. We've got a lot of our students that are on that path. Next slide. Now we're going to move to the IXL annual growth definition, and I have my two colleagues from the district office that work with our math and science with me. Expected annual growth is computed as 10 points each month. So for example, from September to December, we would expect to grow 40 points. And annual growth being 100 points over the course of the year. Again, that is annual growth. It's important that we understand for kids that are on grade level, annual growth is the goal. And it's actually a pretty rigorous goal. If the student is not on grade level at the beginning of the year, it doesn't mean we say, well, let's get them 200 points in 1 year. Would that be wonderful? Absolutely. But maybe it's not going to be achievable. So for a student that's behind, maybe the goal is, can we get them 120 points? And then next year, can we get them another 120 points? And the following year, 120 points? So they will eventually get to the point where they are actually caught up. So those were just, again, a couple of examples. Next slide. So this is, again, we're going to be 100 points would be annual growth. So we would want to see at about this time of the year, probably around 40, because we administer the assessment a little bit earlier than midpoint of the year. We administered in December, which means we're only probably about 40% of the way through the school year rather than the 50%. So as you can see, we have a few grades that are already right on track, a few grades that are not quite there and that we would want to improve a bit. Next slide. What I wanted to also share with you is some disaggregations or digging a little bit deeper into the math area. And this is near and dear to my heart because I am a certified math teacher. I started my teaching career many moons ago, teaching at middle school and high school math. But one thing I learned is those early grades are the foundation. When those students in elementary school come to me as an Algebra 1 teacher in 9th grade and high school with solid numbers and operations, I can really move them so much further. It's important to understand what number and operations means, because a lot of times we think, oh, that means the kids have their multiplication facts memorized. And that's not exactly what that means. It talks about understanding ways of understanding numbers, understanding relationships between numbers, understanding how multiplication and division complement each other, how addition and subtraction complement each other. Can they take numbers apart? Can they take a 25 and a 23 and break it apart and add it together? Or do they only know how to line things up and compute? So this definition is straight from the NCTM standards. And as you can see, we've got numbers in especially 3rd and 4th grade that are already approaching that 50 mark, which we love to see above the 40 when we administered this. And then when we're thinking about algebra and algebraic thinking, algebra is not just something you take in 9th grade, but it's actually understanding patterns, how different relationships work. And again, this is straight from the NCTM, National Council of Teachers of Mathematics definitions. And so I wanted to disaggregate the algebraic thinking. It does cut across all grade levels, but especially starting in 4th and 5th grade, how important it is. And here are our numbers, and you can see our numbers for 8th. I actually had to take the scale above 100 because they're already in December at 107.
Thank you.
So next time, we can talk about some of the high school growth numbers when we have that data available.
Thank you so much, team. And yeah, we can see the growth in every single area. And so we are extremely happy with that. So thanks to the work of all the staff members and directors and, of course, assistant superintendents and principals. Okay, we have a video, and this is the high school, so show time. And I share with you, so let's see, hopefully we work. And we have Mr. Mastrangelo here representing the school. So let's see. Click, click, click. I know.
So here at Malden High School, we have a motto of THRIVE. THRIVE stands for teamwork, high expectations, respect, integrity, all aligned to the vision of our graduate, and equity. And we feel that if we together as a school, staff and students and caregivers and outside support alike can focus on that goal of thriving, that our students will be able to achieve. And we've seen signs of this in so many ways, whether it be our Posse Scholarship winners that we have 4 this year, more than we've had in many years. Our high number of students that are qualifying for both honors and high honors. The outstanding post-secondary choices that our students are making. Every day we look to improve. Every day we look to find ways to motivate our students and motivate ourselves to give our students the best opportunity to thrive regardless of what avenue they choose. We are focused on student-centered learning that yields high levels of student success, and that's what motivates me, and that's what, quite frankly, humbles me to be the principal of Malden High School.
Some ways that the ELA department at Malden High School help our students achieve success and thrive is through our diverse text options for students that represent their life experiences and important topics that are relevant to the world. Other things we do are offer differentiation of courses, particularly in the 11th grade, with sports, women's literature, hip-hop literature, the future, mystery, and monsters. We just finished our 18th year of Poetry Out Loud national competition, and we have a mid and end-of-year portfolio assignment where students get to select what it is that they have accomplished and completed in the year that they feel best reflects their growth throughout the year. And finally, we have opportunities for students to do things outside of our classroom. So we facilitate and use the Writer's Den, which is overseen by a Tufts intern, fostering a space of creativity and writing. And our students this year are participating in a program with the ART, the American Repertory Theater, in which they can attend 3 performances free of charge and participate in pre- and post workshops with them as well.
So Advisory is a program that has existed in private and independent schools for 40 years. It's a standard practice that really helps provide students with the opportunity for social emotional learning, team building, and also to get some academic advising and have an additional adult in the building who gets to know them well, ideally for their entire 4 years of high school, and a small team of other students that they build a community with and are able to discuss issues, discuss their feelings, and learn more about how to work in the world as opposed to just as learning just about academics. Over the summer, about 8 teachers got together and we put together a full year curriculum. And these lessons are social emotional lessons, they're team building lessons, there's always a little bit of element of playing games with your group so that you're building a community. And then we have a protocol for academic advising that the kids go through 7 times a year so that they have another adult keeping an eye on their grades, keeping an eye on their achievement, and helping them brainstorm ways that they can improve.
my report. That concludes my report.
Questions of the superintendent? Any questions? If not, we can, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick one. Is ACE not extended to the Linden School? I noticed,
It's in all these schools.
yeah, but in the chat we were just saying, I saw BB, Salemwood, Forest.
Any students at the Linden using it currently because their IEP and their goals don't align with it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Ms. Horty.
Sorry, Ms. McDonald, could you or Ms. Scalise come back? Because I have some ACE questions too. One question that jumped out was the core skills assessment. Could you just give me an example of a core skill?
Listening,
Okay. So,
just listening.
Attending,
Yeah.
sitting.
Yep, so just sort of what we might consider basic classroom
Function.
expectations?
Yeah, expectations.
Would that
and
be fair?
functioning, Yep.
Okay. So then when we talk about skills assessment versus core skills, like I imagine that is a step up. So could we have an example then of what?
It's not actually a step up, it's
Okay.
a different type of assessment. So ACE and the New England Center for Children is who developed it. And with the curriculum, they also gave us these giant bags that have a bunch of different things in them. Some of them include a baby sneaker to tie. So we're able to see if the kids have the skill to tie shoes. There's also toothbrushes in there. There's soap that's in there to see if the kids understand how to do the natural hygiene things on their own, or if those are things that we have to help them with. But those are just some of the skills assessments that are in there, so we can understand the basic level of foundational skills that they may have to build up on.
And the chart that Mr. Gray was talking about, all the students on this chart, are they enrolled in a sub-separate program, or is it a mixture of some students in sub-separate and some partial inclusion, or?
It's a mixture. It
Okay.
is a mixture, and it depends upon what their IEP goals are and whether or not there's things that are in the IEP that would constitute them to be involved with this.
I'm sorry, I have a million questions.
No,
So in terms of a student that's receiving like inclusion services, so they're pushing into classrooms, who is monitoring then their ACE work? Who is able to take that data?
The data is usually coming from one of the ESPs or the teacher that's in the classroom. Sometimes an RBT might go in there to do that.
Okay.
The BCBA will also go in and do that. Depending upon the student, there might be every day, every minute of taking data, or this could just be a once a week, twice a week, depending upon what they're doing in the classroom to see what we're looking at in terms of the data we're collecting.
Okay. And I think, Dr. Noriega-Murphy, I think you mentioned that this might be accessible for parents on the parent portal at some point. Is that, or is there right now, is there more of an informal system where it's communicated home?
It is informal if the parents would like data. We present it at the IEP meetings when we're taking the data with the students.
Sure.
So that they can see the graphs themselves and see where there's different levels of what the students are doing. I would have to talk to the New England Center for Children to see if it could be something that we could put a dashboard together for. But at any time, we can look up a student and determine what their current levels are and where they are in terms of their goals and objectives.
So this curriculum is something that I have experience working with in another district, and where it's a portal for the parents. We are just trying to pilot it now. We did the training, so it's the first time we are doing this because we want to make sure that parents also can measure the growth of the student learning, especially in sub-separate settings. So we are piloting this, but I can tell you that there is a portal. We're not there yet as we're training, but that would be the goal, that any parent or caregiver has access to it.
I just had one more question about, I'm sorry, the behavioral piece. Is some of the, so there's a challenging behavior piece here that talks about, it sounds like sort of basic behavior modification type ideas. Is some of that able to be used by other folks within the district? A classroom teacher that might be having an issue with a student with behavior or someone like that without them being within in other words, I'm thinking of a general education teacher who maybe does not have access to the same materials that someone in the sub-separate room does, might that teacher have the opportunity to use some of these wonderful programs that seem to be available for a student with behavioral issues?
A lot of our special education teachers are collaborating with general education teachers to support them with different types of accommodations in the classroom to help them, whether it's just for somebody who needs some executive functioning skills in the classroom to somebody who's having behaviors in the classroom. So they're doing a lot of that. What the general education teachers usually will ask our special education teachers is for those types of coping strategies, skills that they can help them with so that they're helping them as well in the classroom. So we don't have the general education teachers associated to the curriculum right now. It's the special education teachers, but they can look up anything that they need in there for them.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that everybody could see it if they wanted to.
They can see it at any time, sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Horty. Over to Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you. It's also for you folks. So thank you for staying. And thank you because you asked a lot of the questions I had. Looking at the chart, and I'm just interested in seeing how frequently when the data is entered, and I'm assuming, I'm looking at this chart, the one that has shows the drop right here. So obviously the goal is to see that if what you're doing is actually effective. So how does it, in real time, how is it working for teachers? So if they can make adjustments and things, is that how it runs? And sort of is there support for the teachers to work on getting this all in? I know how hard it is to take data and then entering it in, like it's a lot. But wondering what that time frame is.
They all have iPads now that they can enter it in on the spot. And this is like a classic behavioral issue, whether you can see this in the extinction burst and it goes down. And what's nice is that you have that data, those data points, so you can say like, wait a minute, it spiked in at this day. What was going on? Oh, you know, grandma was sick or something happened. So then we can kind of see why there's a spike because we have it all delineated out. So it's nice to see, or maybe the bus was late that day or whatever it is. So that really helps us in that regard. So far, I mean, you can talk a little bit, but most of the ESPs and teachers are doing a great job of putting it in, and they put it in real time, so it's not hard to do.
And they get this sort of result back, they can sort of track something
And
in real time, so they know if something's, right,
This
something's
was
off or
over
working.
a large period of time I did. You can do it over weeks. You can do it just by day. You can do a weekly log. They are in their early stages of getting to know this program, so they're doing it, I would say, on a light version, if that makes sense. A lot of the BCBAs that are in the schools are actually taking the data and entering it in, because you're right, the teachers and the ESPs don't have a ton of time. They're collecting the data, and then the BCBAs are entering it in. However, the teachers are doing the same thing as well as the ESPs and the RBTs. So they're getting there, and it's working really well. I'm very proud of them on how they're doing. It's something very new to them and very different, but they're seeing the rewards of how they're working with the students and how well it's going.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose Zyberg. Ms. Spatafor.
Okay, I was just going to opine to our student rep. I think she's been waiting, so I'm going to keep it really quick. Under the, I'll try to get to this, the preference assessment. This one I was really intrigued by because I think students, especially those on the spectrum, do tend to learn based on their preferences to certain things. So can you just give me a little bit more background information on what the assessment options, or the preference options would be, or what you're seeing?
So I think it's around like, you know, a reward. If we're going to give them a reward, what is their preferred reward? If they need a break, what's the preferred activity during that? So we can pinpoint what will motivate them to, you know, for those, because a lot of times our students, you know, really thrive on knowing that they're going to get a reward or a preferred activity. For some kids, it's a preferred relationship, so they want to go see a certain person. And this assessment app really helps us pinpoint that, and it sort of takes the guesswork out of that. So it's been really helpful in developing behavioral plans for students.
So you just led into my next question on how much of this data is used to create FBAs, or are we using to create FBAs right now when we see that challenging behavior and the spike and we're like, oh, okay. So I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, this helps with the FBA and then taking that FBA and pushing it into a behavior plan. We are, like I said, just a few months into implementing it, so, you know, we're still doing the traditional methods and blending them together and kind of getting a feel for using it. But it's really been a great tool, and I think it's really helped our BCBAs to really fine-tune their FBAs.
And I was gonna say, because I feel like we are collecting data already, but this is just a whole nother level.
Amazing
Kind
level.
of like a deep dive
Yeah.
into that world. So I think that's all I had, but thank you for this work. It's really, one quick question. At the high school, and this is a self-serving question, and I think Ms. McDonald knows where I'm going with this. How many of the students in like our Pathways, RISE, PACE, are any of those
It would mostly be our PACE students.
PACE? Okay.
But it's, you know, it's dependent. If a teacher says, I'd really like to look at this, I'd like to do the preference assessment with them, we're always happy to do that. Because that's, you know, we are, you know, I say we're like the Marines, improvise, adapt, overcome. Like, we're here for the kids and we just need to make it work, whatever that takes, so.
So with that being said, offline, I'd love to see data when you're talking about the amount of kids you had, 28 at BB, 45 at Ferryway. Can you break that down to grade level as well?
I probably could off the top of my head. But
No,
some
I'm
of
not
them-
asking now. That's why I said offline. Like, I would love to see that data.
Yeah.
So, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Over to our student representative.
So I did have something a little different from this. I just wanted to make a correction on the superintendent's behalf. So the FAFSA from the Boston University Financial Aid Advisor, that did happen already, and that was on January 19th. I worked in partnership with College Reach, and there are people who are like sponsoring these events. And I know that we're also planning on having some type of workshop near the end of the month or near the beginning of March. So if there are any parents in here or online that have senior, you know, children that want to have their children engaged in this, that'd be very great for them. And also, I know that we also have FAFSA and college advisors at our school that are very helpful, that have been helping me a lot, and I just wanted to give like a little shout out to them because my FAFSA has been giving me a lot of trouble.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? If not, we'll move to the calendar. Ms. Spatafor?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I thought we were just dealing with that part of the presentation.
Sure.
That's, so I did have a question in regards to the data that was provided on Dibbles and iReady. Thank you. So just a quick question. You noted on, I think it was the first page under Dibbles, our winter testing window is a bit earlier, about 40% of the way through the school year. So we expected to see a little bit less growth in that window in comparison to later year because of
Yes.
it. Like, I'm
Yes.
assuming we know that, okay, it's a little bit less time in between. So I don't want to say our expectations aren't higher, but we know.
Yes.
If I'm correct in saying
and
that.
sometimes learning isn't always linear either, which means that there could be more growth or less growth at certain times of the year. And so that's why having that threshold at the end of the year, this just kind of gives us a glimpse into the trajectory it's likely going.
So, and with that being said, you talk about, you know, growth isn't linear. I was just curious. So it says that, and I'm going to jump to IXL now, the annual growth, expected annual growth is computed by IXL as 10 points each month. I find that because each month has a different amount of days. So we may have a month that January that just never ends and we're only giving 10 points, but then we have a month like December that's very quick and we have a vacation built in. I'm just curious. The annual growth doesn't seem like, or not the annual, but the month by month 10 points just doesn't seem like it's a good calculation.
That makes a lot of sense. I think the big goal is 100 points by the end of the year. I am not as familiar with IXL as I am with iReady and Dibbles. And these two folks can tell us a lot more about the IXL.
I think it's meant to be like an average, so when we say, oh, 100 for a year and we have 10 months of school, it's like approximately, but kind of along those lines, there are also, depending on what curriculum you're using, you may not be addressing certain, they have 6 strands, or 5 strands, and you may not be addressing, let's say fractions. Grade 3 hasn't done any fractions yet. They do fractions module 5, so like, there's not gonna be any growth there most likely unless the student is learning on their own. So even though we say 10 months, we want 40 points, our curriculum may be kind of preventing some or, you know, accelerating some scores just based on the topics that are being covered in each grade level.
Okay, so there's what
lots
I'm
of
looking
wiggle
for, there's
room.
flexibility
Correct.
when you're looking at it, and you're not saying, okay, by December, they should be at the 40 points. Because
Correct.
you're understanding there's some short months and
We
taking into
do a lot of
account-
breaking down of the strands the coaches do in the data meetings to kind of be like, oh, look, kindergarten, you didn't make any growth in data statistics and probability. That's understandable because you only do that for a very small amount of time at the end of the year. So kind of like breaking it down a little more specific to make it make sense.
So when you're pulling this data, are you also taking into account like absenteeism rates? Because if you have a student that, say, had an illness and they're not necessarily, again, I don't want to go back to that earning that 10 point, or that you're seeing that growth, but there's a reason behind that you're not getting to maybe that 100 at the end of the year, or what your expectation is.
We never want a number to define a child.
Okay.
So for us, learning is not linear. It's just a piece of data that helps us put together that mosaic that represents what's going on with a child. So if there are extenuating circumstances, teachers know that. We don't use IXL in its purest form for grades or anything like that. It is just to help us understand how we can, as directors, support teachers with implementing curriculum and how teachers can help students target their interventions to support students.
Yeah, and then when the coaches meet with individual teachers, it's like, they'll say things like, are you surprised by any of this? Or is there anything that jumps out to you? And so we're really looking at individual students when we're in these data meetings, but here, you know, we give the snapshot and we use it to kind of track over a course of many years, what does the data look like in terms of a general sense. But when we're meeting with teachers, it's about who's in front of you, what is the data telling us about them, what is it not telling us about them, you know, what other data do you have? And we're talking about like the student as a whole, not just that data point.
That's definitely where I'm like kind of coming at these questions as a special needs parent who uses these assessments to see like how much have they fallen behind, how much have they regressed, like so how much are we taking into account absenteeism rates or just that where they were starting from, did they come from out of district, so on and so forth. So.
And that's another thing, like how far have they come over their kind of career? So that when people are like, well, why are we still using it for Eureka? It's like, this is at least something that's like standardized and it can give us data each year, 3 times a year, and we can kind of track what's happening. For our multilingual learners, we get a lot of teachers saying like, it's not showing how much they know. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely agree with you because the test is in English and it reads to them up to a certain grade level. And even if it does, it doesn't necessarily matter if they don't understand the language. But you'll always, it's nice to watch because you'll see that spike, you know, let's say 2-3 years down the road. And I always say to that kindergarten teacher who was like, they know so much more. I'll go back and I'm like, I'll show it to you 3 years from now. And you were part of that too. So we, you know, we are constantly trying to be like, we know it's one data point. So we understand.
And Dr. Dias mentioned the word intervention, and that is the key here. It's not just to use as a tool, as a number, informs the practice to make sure that we are going to customize these services to the students.
Very last question, because I know we want to move along. And it was in regards to the IXL average growth. So on this page, it's showing our 8th graders at 107, above that 100. Does that mean they're learning like above grade level? Or are we taking into account that there was some catch-up growth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. I mean, growth indicates how much they've come from where they were when we first assessed them to where they are now. We anticipate and we're really trying to make up for some of the gaps, as we all have heard for the last 4 years. So it's not surprising. It's encouraging, to be honest with you. We have new curriculum at the middle school. in grades 6, 7, and 8. This is our second year, so I'm hoping that those types of instructional changes are becoming more systemic, and so the kids can get caught up and make some of that gap up. The conversations I've had with teachers are they were more prepared this year than they have been in the past, and so I'm encouraged by the data. But
So-
again, it's a data point, it is not everything.
I was going to say, so our hope is to see more of those jumps as we're, getting out of 2020, 2021, and hoping that our kids are finally catching up, that we'll see that above 100 mark more often.
We all do.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Horty.
Hi.
I have a feeling we shouldn't say.
Dibbles and IXL questions too. In terms of the K-3 Dibbles summary, it really struck me the end of your target on that and how unrealistic that felt. That from the 12% below benchmark and then 29% below benchmark and 12% well below benchmark, wanting to be up to 80%. That just, if I was the teacher of that student, if I was the parent of that student, that would be incredibly disheartening to look at, because it would feel unmanageable and impossible. And we're certainly not going to tell a second grader that. I'm aware of that. But I'm just wondering how we're managing all of the other pieces that are going into all of this testing. Meaning when we were also looking at when I was looking at the IXL scores and some of the expectations there, I was wondering the same thing. Because data is wonderful, but it doesn't take into account the whole person. And I just, when we're putting out these expectations there, how are these things being phrased to your staff, to the parents, to any other stakeholders in the students' lives?
I just also want to comment that these numbers also capture our newcomers. So we do use this assessment with our newcomers. As you heard with IXL, we all are always looking for growth. These aren't students that have mastered English. And so when you're looking at number of students that are below or well below, we have a growing population of multilingual learners in our district that are being captured here. And I just wanted to make sure that that is also pointed out, because for that population, we talk about it differently. Like, we understand that you're in the process of learning a second language, so it doesn't feel as defeating as thinking like, oh my goodness, my child is 3 grade levels below. It's expected if you come in 3rd grade and you're learning English, you're going to be below until you learn English. So I just wanted to make sure that we know that these numbers capture that population of our students.
That's very helpful, because that was another question that I had, especially in terms of the below and well below, was who was in that group, and I was going to ask if it was multilanguage learners. So if that's, especially when we're talking about Dibbles, that makes sense. I actually have an IXL question too. And I'm not sure, when students take IXL, is it a progressive test? Meaning, do they just keep going until they don't get it correct, or they're past the, so yes.
iReady and IXL are both considered computer adaptive tests.
Okay.
Which means that you're going to get an item maybe on, you're in 8th grade, you'll get an 8th grade item, but then depending on if you got the item correct or incorrect, it adjusts until it finds kind of that point of equilibrium where the system says, okay, I have enough information now to figure out actually where the student is, which are the type of assessments that the measurement field says are better assessments, because they allow you to assess students that are well below, well above. Otherwise, if you give a student a test that, say, has 10 items and they get none of them right, you don't know how far below they are. If they get 100 of them or all 10 of them right, you don't know how far above. So both of these assessments utilize that computer adaptive technology.
Not obviously at this moment, but that would actually be something I'd be interested in knowing, is how many students are able to go above their grade level, even if just in, like, I think you were saying that in strands, like just seeing, because I think that there's obviously a population of students that do that, I would imagine.
We have that data.
I'd love to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, now let's take a look at this calendar.
As I said previously, the only thing that you will see here is the Wednesday PDs instead of Tuesdays to create equity on the days that ELC students can attend school. Then we have fulfilled this CBA agreement on professional development for early release and also half days. We meet time of learning in terms of the days and hours. And you can see, I don't know, it's very small, that we have for, I need my glasses again. For the high school, we had the 990 hours according to the days. We have to still go to the master schedule. Then we have, for the middle schools, we had 900 hours. And for pre-kindergarten, it's 425 hours. So according to just the dates, once again, we had to go deeper into the master schedules. We meet all the dates. We have all the elections are coming up, and everything should be in place. And it has been, once again, reviewed by the PD committee, by the president and another representative of the MEA.
Questions of the superintendent? Any motions to be made?
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Ms. Spatafora to adopt, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Any questions of the members? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it, that carries unanimously. All right, everyone, subcommittee reports. Let's first hear from Ms. Spatafora regarding budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bear with me because I'm also the technical person here, so I just want to bring up a small presentation, if I can get out of this page. There we go. All right, so the budget subcommittee has not met yet, but we are rolling into our budget season. Let me make this a little bit bigger for, I'm not doing well with technology tonight. Rolling into our budget season. So the governor just sent down her budget for the state. That's why you're here. So I just wanted to highlight, as we are going to be starting our meetings, that the governor's budget was not very kind to the city of Malden. So we have what I'm sure everybody hears us talk about all the time, our Chapter 70 aid, which is our state aid. And they are saying that at this moment, preliminary budget, that they will give the city of Malden $63 million, $814,622. That is only a difference of $600,000. So less than $1 million increase to the city to do what we need to do. So it does not look great. And as we sit up here very often and say, please, please, please contact our state legislators because the funding formula is not accurate for our city. When you compare us to, say, Chelsea, that just has a few hundred students more, but has close to $60 million more in funding. There is issues. So these are issues that we're going to have to take up in budget subcommittee, and our budget subcommittee consists of myself, Mr. Drummy, Mr. Gray, Mr. McCarthy and Ms. Horty. And starting next week, we will be meeting every other Monday. It should say 6:30 p.m., not 6 p.m. 6:30 p.m. on Zoom with our finance director and our superintendent to start really digging deep into how we can level fund, level service our district and make sure that our students are getting everything that they need. So just a brief update. I encourage the community to tune in, watch, but also more than anything, I encourage you to reach out to our legislatures because it's really inequitable what Malden gets in comparison to our surrounding cities. So.
And if I might just add from the chair, we have formally reached out to Education Secretary Tutwiler as well as Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, once again reiterating that some way, somehow, the formula has to be updated to today. Again, they're using a formula from, I believe, that was last modified in the 1990s, which, 1992, which, fast forward to today, is not realistic or benefiting our community. So our state delegation is well aware, and this is something that we've been talking about over the years, but it's really come into focus this year. So, we'll keep you posted on what we hear back. Senator Lewis has informed me that as a result, he has been in touch with the governor's office and the education department staff as well. So fingers crossed. I know how hard it is to change the formula because you change it here, it's going to affect someone out in another part of the state. So perhaps what, our go-to person on this, Ron Hogan, on the city's finance side, has been saying maybe you do something off the formula to help mitigate cities that are experiencing this issue, like Malden. Others are, I believe, Haverhill, Lowell, some of the gateway cities. So we'll keep you posted on that, but we have formally reached out to them, letting them know that, what Mr. Hogan has been saying over the years has come to fruition this year, for sure. All right, everyone, let's move on to Superintendent Search Committee. Ms. Spatafor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, superintendent search has started, and our chair has named myself as the chair of the committee, and that is a big role, and I had asked the chair if I was able to choose another colleague to assist in this. So I have chosen Ms. Sharon Rose Iberg to co-chair this committee with myself. And over the past 2 weeks, we reached out to search firms that handle this process because the price range we were looking at was under $25,000. There wasn't a need for us to put out a request for proposal. We were able to reach out to firms and ask for their proposals, in which we reached out to three, one being the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, MASC, NESDEC, and I can't tell you what it stands for, New England School Development Council, and the Collins Center. So Ms. Rose Iberg and myself reviewed the proposals, and unfortunately the Collins Center was unable to provide a proposal. They were not willing to work with Malden, or not able to, excuse me. So that allowed us to review MASC and NASDAQ, and we've put together a few bullet points from both of those in the hopes that this committee will then choose a firm to lead the way. So, and please, Ms. Rose Iberg, chime in as we had a few discussions on pros and cons. So with MASC, the fee for the service would be $11,500, and that is well below the $25,000 that this committee authorized. It would be led by Glenn Kuchar, who is the executive director of MASC. He holds a master's in public administration. One of the defining points that they talked about was their knowledge in open meeting law, procedural requirements, Robert's rules, and the technical process of the search. They have over 900 superintendent and assistant superintendents on their distribution list, so a wide reach. They're affiliated with NSBA, the National School Board Association, and they're willing to, or not willing, but highlighted their lead focus groups with students, faculty, community members, and/or parents to identify the priorities of the people who will work with our new district leader. And should the individual that would be retained as superintendent fail to complete 2 years of service to the district, MASC will assume responsibilities of reinstituting a search process at no additional charge to the school committee. And on top of all of that, we are, as Malden, affiliated with MASC. We do our training through them every few years. Was there anything, Ms. Rose Iberg?
One of the things of note for me was that their ability to do follow-up. So it, and I actually have the proposal with me. It's like after the superintendent has had the opportunity to become acclimated to his or her new situation, MASC will be available to conduct a workshop for the committee, the superintendent, and those administrators selected for participation by the committee. And it deals with roles and responsibilities of the committee and the admins with other issues the committee might wish to address, which I think is key in trying to get everybody sort of on the same page right out of the starting block for expectations. Another part was that I did like that the search staff who would be working with us if we go with this option, they have all served on school committees and understand how board members relate to the search process. And I think that type of involvement from having served on school committees, they've been in our shoes and know what this entails. So I think that level of information could be very helpful from them.
Keith?
So then we also reached out to NSDEC, the New England School Development Council. Some bullet points. The fee was a little bit higher if we choose them, $16,650. And I didn't highlight, but in addition to that, if we wanted to do additional focus groups, I don't have the proposal in front of me, they did charge extra. So they do lead some focus groups, but anything above what is included in the proposal. I know in previous years we've done focus groups with, say, the Chinese Cultural Connection or our CPAC, so there would be additional charges. A name that some of us in Malden are familiar with, the search would be led by David DeRusi, who is the executive director of NSDEC. He also is the former superintendent in Malden, so good for him on his road. Some highlights, they would advertise the opening on School Spring, Education Week, and the Association of School Administrators. They have placed superintendents in surrounding districts, including Saugus, Billerica, Marblehead, Wilmington. And again, similar to MASC, if a candidate chosen as a result of a NSDEC executive search should leave the position either voluntarily or involuntarily for any reason other than retirement within a 2-year period of initial appointment, NSDEC would provide free of charge consulting and support services comparable to those in the initial search. So both of those do seem to have, I hate to say, use this word, a warranty, so to say. And again, Ms. Rose Iberg, I know we discussed many pros and cons and bullet points with NSDEC as well, if you'd like to chime in.
looking through, a lot of these are up there. I know one of the concerns we had was just that the additional funds, where this is already a little bit higher, additional funds needed, depending on our particular needs, was just one of the concerns too, was budgetary. Because I'm even looking, going through this one, there's additional funds that would be charged for governance retreat and follow-up, different brochures and things like that. There's a lot of extra fees that went into it. I looked and I've written down that there were 6 in the plan for community focus groups. I know we talked about sort of offhand, maybe we would want more than that. That's $425 additional per group. So seeing as we want to get a lot of input, that will get that number going higher. So some of it's budgetary, looking at them. A lot of the stuff, it is similar with what they offer.
Thank you. And then again, lastly, we did reach out to the Collins Center, and they said they were unable to provide services to Malden at this time. I think we are somewhat familiar with their services, as we have used them in the past. So before you, the committee, we have to make a decision on next steps. And I don't want to speak for Ms. Rose Zyberg, but in our discussions and meeting, we both feel as though the Massachusetts Association of School Committees would best serve us in this search process.
Let's segue to the motions and resolutions. Is there one? Motion by Ms. Spatafora, seconded by Ms. Rose Zyberg. Now, questions. Any questions? Let's go to Mr. Drummy.
The Collins Group, because we used them the last time, was there a reason, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, was there a reason that why they decided not to participate? Because we used them the last time and they were very good.
Yeah, no, it was really unfortunate. They weren't able to provide background on their decision.
Because Mass Association of School Committee gave us 3 of our last 4 superintendents. So, okay, right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drummy. Any other questions? Let's go to Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a couple questions, and thank you, Mr. Drummy, for a little piece of information that I didn't have. When we're comparing the Mass Association, versus NASDAQ, understandably, $6,000, and I don't want to go and be, to be cheap, but also when we're saying, focus groups, and I know that you might not have the data right in front of you, but when they said focus groups, how many were they including, was NASDAQ including in their first thing versus, and is there a limit on to how many groups that the Mass Association would go and do?
I'm going to opine to Ms. Rose Zyberg, because I know she has the proposal in front of her.
Sorry for the tough question.
It'll take me a sec. I think it was 6.
That sounds about right.
Okay, while she's looking that up, did you have a further question?
No, I think that just really, I'm just curious about that, because it's we're Malden. We have a lot of people that are, have shown interest in being involved, and I want to make sure that we're able to get people the opportunity, and if that means that we go and we have a 7th group and we go and pay a little extra to go and do that, if we can do that. But if we have like 30 groups going, and at that point it becomes a little untenable.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, just alone, we have students we'd want to reach out to, so that's a focus group. Faculty that we want to reach out to, that's another. Parents. I know we've coordinated with CPAC, different organizations in the city, again, Chinese Cultural Connection, I believe we worked with previously. I think I just named 5 right there. Mm-hmm. So I definitely see us going above 6. And I believe in the past, we held a forum just for school committee members to put in our input and questions and what we're looking for in a leader as well. So I do see us going above 6 to make sure that we're reaching every corner of the city.
And just, yes, it is from the plan, develop a successful candidate profile. Number 2, the consultants would meet with school community representatives and up to 6 focus groups, combination of virtual and in person, to receive their input regarding the new superintendent. It's scheduled as mutually agreed. If requested, focus groups would be augmented through telephone, video conference interviews of selected officials, educational leaders, citizens, and others in the community, and then see the cost proposal for option of additional focus groups, so 6.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else? If not, we have a motion on the floor. Clerk will call the roll.
What is the motion again?
Motion is
The
to,
motion is to hire the MASC to conduct the superintendent search.
it was seconded by
Ms.
Ms. Rose Iberg.
Mr. Drummond? Yes. Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Spatafora?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Ms. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Ms. Rose Iber? Mayor Christensen?
Yes, that carries unanimously. Yeah, please.
Sorry. So just to wrap up on this portion, so next steps would be to notify the chosen search form of the proposal acceptance. So we'll be in touch with Mr. Kuchar in the morning. And then we will now start to build the Malden Superintendent Search Committee out. So faculty members will receive an email from supersearch@maldenps.org with a link to a volunteer form to sign up, show interest. And parents, community members will be able to access a volunteer form on maldenps.org through a connected email and numerous city social media websites. And then all applicants will be reviewed and chosen based on background, experience, roles within the Malden Public School community. And we will start moving forward with putting out the, why am I losing my train of thought now? The position, and start the interview process.
Very good. Any questions on that? Ms. Rose Iberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just can you mention a little bit, Ms. Spatafora, about how we are hoping to be able to get that? I don't think the link has been created yet, so where the public will have access to different things. So we're going to be able to have sort of a separate site for people to keep up to date on where we are in the process.
Yep, so there will be, within the maldenps.org page, there will be a super search page in which the community will be able to see the proposals, the committee members, the timeline, and then as we move further into the process, final applicants, when we get into the final stages. So, but everything will be online and accessible to the community for transparency and to be able to reach out, ask questions, and make sure that everybody's voice is heard in the process.
Okay, thank you. Personal privilege. Any points of personal privilege, left or right? Mr. Drummond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tomorrow, early release, 11 o'clock, so there's no lunch, just as a reminder, because sometimes there's a problem with that. Parent-teacher conferences for the Ferryway, at least, are this Thursday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. The PTO Ferryway is having a bake sale, so talk to a teacher, have a cookie. If you're interested in helping or you want to donate goods for the bake sale, if you go to the ferrywaypto@gmail.com and just leave them a note as to what you would like to drop off or whatever. All the proceeds go to help events and or field trips for the Ferryway students. Vacation week, the 19th to the 23rd. Have fun, be safe, don't go nuts. And this isn't a school thing, but in a sideways it is because it involves Special Olympics. Floramos is doing in conjunction with Malden Police, they're calling it Tip-A-Cop. So what they're doing is this Friday, oh God, I didn't write it down. But it's a Floramos website. I know, I missed up on that one. I'm going to hear it from Margie tonight. The police are going to take over from, I think it's 4 to 6 on Friday the 9th. They're going to be the hostess and servers. All tips will be turned over to the Special Olympics for Malden. So if you're not doing anything Friday night, you want to go to dinner, go to Floramos. Sorry, Madge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just because I have access to it, yeah, the Floramos on this Friday from 4 to 8 p.m. And now let me go and get to switch to my announcements. Again, early dismissal tomorrow at the Salemwood. So that's at 11 a.m. Just make sure that people go and pick up your kids on time if you like them. There's a virtual meeting of the PTO tomorrow as well at 7 p.m. Also, just a reminder that Chinese-Vietnamese New Year starts this coming Saturday on the 10th. And again, February vacation coming up, so don't show up to school, because not that I don't think we have to encourage our students to not show up for vacation, and then show up afterwards, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Let's see, Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the Linden on Wednesday, so February 7th, there's the winter walk and roll to school. They're encouraging caregivers to walk with their students, either to or from school. And you can do meetups at 7:40 at Hawkridge Delta or Steve's Corner. I wanted to give a quick congratulations to Malden High. I was able to go and see Mamma Mia, and as usual, it was a wonderful production. It was actually good to see also a student in the orchestra who actually had graduated last year and came back with some fellow students and to be in the orchestra, which was kind of fun. And to just wish them break a leg. Part of the next thing that they'll be doing, that I know they had told us even at that point. So even while they were all up and running and doing this production, they were busy writing and casting and preparing for what they will take to Drama Fest, which is part of METG, which is coming up on March 2nd for prelims. And so break a leg to all of you. Big fan of that program, and I wish them well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Macklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, I wanted to wish and recognize that it's Black History Month. Typically during February, I usually post Little Noon Black History facts, just so we can all share in the rich culture and of Black history. So thank you for those indulging me, because I do post on the Malden Public School pages as well. We do have some items from the high school this Friday, February 9th from 6 to 9. It's Afro-Caribbean night, dance, food, music to celebrate Afro-Caribbean culture. There will also be a Valentine's Day dance Friday, February 16th, sponsored by the MHS class of 2025. The MCAS biology retest is February 6th and 7th, so that's tomorrow and Wednesday. Staff caregiver conferences, Thursday, February 15th, 4:30 to 6, both cafeterias. The girls' basketball team has qualified for the MIAA state tournament, pairing coming out in early March. So yay, and go to them. I have also something from Principal Lawrence at the ALC. She says she wants to thank family and school community for the generous donations for the basket raffle. Thank you for making our Winter Wonderland event a wonderful time. She personally would like to thank Dr. Noriega Murphy, Mayor Christensen, and Jen Spadafora for attending the event. And she's looking forward to seeing everyone at the Color Fun Run in May. And finally, because prom season is almost upon us, and it's belle of the ball time, and so I'm so happy and pleased that our student representative is here, and perhaps you can distribute and display. So belle of the ball is partnership with Anton's Cleaners, Enterprise Bank, Jordan's Furniture, and everything you need for the prom for high school juniors and seniors is free of charge. And it's an incredible event because they match you with a personal shopper. You can get your prom dress, your accessories, shoes, the whole thing. They do a red carpet, so, you know, the prom goers feel really special and great. They have the DJ. So the referral deadline, and students must be referred. The referral deadline is March 15th. However, if you sign up or get your referral by this Friday, you get to pick your appointment time, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. So please, I want to give these to you before you leave. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Ms. Horty?
Thank you. Half day tomorrow, we all hit on that. So next week at Forestdale, Tuesday, February 13th, is going to be parent-teacher conferences from 4 to 5:30. I agree with Ms. Rose Zyberg that Mamma Mia was amazing. Congratulations to the arts department at the high school. You are all doing some wonderful things there. Not necessarily school-related, but definitely community-related. On Sunday, February 25th, from 5 to 7 at the Salem Woods School, my Ward 5 partner, Ari Taylor, is hosting a community dinner, and it's open to families just to sort of get to know each other. I will be there. She will be there. It'll be a good time to ask any questions to either one of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spatafora?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will not reiterate that we have vacation coming up. I just wanted to remind all parents to look in your kids' backpacks. It's report card day. So they will try to hide them, or maybe, you know, forget to tell you that they're on Aspen, but they're there. So go check out their grades. And I just wanted to, we see these incredible videos at the end of our superintendent's reports, and I just wanted to give Mr. Valenti, my gosh, a huge shout out, because the work that him and the students in his class, that they put into, and I am fortunate to see this in my own home with a student that is in his class right now. It's absolutely amazing. And now I have a child that wants to get into some sort of media or photography because of his class. But what we're presented with and that they put together every single month is absolutely amazing. So a huge shout out to Jim Valenti and everything he does for the district. And that's it.
Very good, thank you. Okay, we'll now entertain a motion to go, did you have a? We'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Mr. Drummey, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Drummond? Yes. Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Spatafora?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Ms. Orty?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Ms. Rose Zyber?
Yes.
Mayor Christensen?
Yes, that carries unanimously. School committee will now be in executive session.
Thank you, Fox Translation. We are all set tonight, and we will see you in March. Thank you again.
Recording stopped.
Okay, the school committee is back.
Recording in progress.
School committee is back. We'll entertain any motions. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Mr. Bernard. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. School committee is hereby adjourned.